Kate Williams had always believed that life would unfold according to plan. At 28, she had everything mapped out perfectly. Her small apartment overlooking the city park was decorated with motivational quotes and vision boards filled with dreams of the future. She worked as a graphic designer at a downtown advertising agency, where her creativity flourished and her colleagues respected her dedication. Every morning, Kate would wake up at 6 sharp, brew her favorite vanilla coffee, and spend 30 minutes writing in her journal. She documented her goals, her progress, and her unwavering optimism about what tomorrow would bring. Her friends often called her the eternal optimist, someone who could find silver linings in the darkest clouds. William Thompson had been Kate's neighbor for 3 years, though they had only exchanged polite greetings in the hallway. He lived in the apartment directly across from hers, and Kate had always noticed how he carried himself with quiet strength. William worked as a paramedic, often returning home at odd hours with tired eyes, but always managing a genuine smile when he saw her. Their first real conversation happened on a rainy Tuesday evening when Kate's grocery bags tore open in the hallway, spilling oranges and cereal boxes everywhere. William appeared from his apartment, immediately kneeling to help gather her scattered items. "Looks like you could use some backup," he said with a warm chuckle, carefully collecting the rolling oranges. Kate felt embarrassed, but grateful. "I always buy too much and never remember to bring a proper bag. Thank you so much for helping." As they stood together in the hallway, Kate noticed how William's presence felt calming. He had dark hair that was slightly messy from his shift, and his paramedic uniform suggested he had just returned from work. There was something about his steady demeanor that made her feel instantly at ease. "I'm Kate, by the way. I know we've been neighbors forever, but I don't think we've properly introduced ourselves." "William," he replied, extending his hand with a genuine smile. "And you're right. We should have done this years ago." From that evening forward, their friendship blossomed naturally. They began meeting for coffee on Sunday mornings at the small cafe downstairs from their building. Kate would share stories about her design projects and her dreams of eventually starting her own creative studio. William would listen intently, asking thoughtful questions and offering encouragement that felt sincere rather than polite. William told Kate about his work as a paramedic, how he had chosen the profession after his younger sister had been in a serious car accident when they were teenagers. He wanted to be the person who showed up when others needed help most. Kate admired his dedication to helping people during their most vulnerable moments. Their conversations revealed deeper layers of their personalities. Kate discovered that William was an avid reader who particularly enjoyed historical fiction. He had a small library in his apartment and would often recommend books that he thought she might enjoy. William learned that Kate had grown up in a small town and moved to the city to pursue her artistic dreams, despite her parents' concerns about the practical challenges of a creative career. Months passed, and their friendship evolved into something neither of them had expected. Kate found herself looking forward to William's return from work each evening, often timing her own arrival home to coincide with his. William began leaving small notes under Kate's door when he worked overnight shifts, simple messages wishing her a good day or sharing a funny observation from his work. One evening in early spring, they were walking through the park near their building when Kate received a phone call that would change everything. Her mother's voice sounded strained and distant, unusual for someone who typically approached every conversation with cheerful energy. "Kate, honey, I need to talk to you about something important. Can you sit down?" Kate felt her stomach tighten as she found a nearby bench with William settling beside her, sensing the gravity of the moment. Her mother's words came slowly, carefully chosen, but devastating in their simplicity. "I went to the doctor last week for those headaches I've been having. They found something, Kate. It's a brain tumor, and they're not sure yet what type it is or what the treatment options might look like." The world seemed to stop moving around Kate. The sounds of children playing in the distance faded into a muffled blur. Her mother continued talking, mentioning appointments and specialists and second opinions, but Kate could barely process the information. Her hands began trembling as she tried to hold the phone steady. "Mom, I don't understand. You were fine when I visited last month. You seemed completely normal. Are they sure about this?" Her mother's voice remained calm, though Kate could hear the underlying fear. "They're running more tests this week to determine the next steps. I didn't want to worry you until I had more information, but your father insisted I call you today." After the call ended, Kate sat in stunned silence. William placed a gentle hand on her shoulder, waiting patiently for her to process what she had just heard. The carefully constructed vision boards in her apartment suddenly seemed naive and meaningless. Her goals and plans felt insignificant compared to the possibility of losing her mother. "She's only 52, Kate whispered, more to herself than to William. "She's always been so healthy. She runs marathons and eats organic everything." "This doesn't make sense." William listened without offering empty platitudes about everything being fine. He understood from his work that sometimes life delivers blows that cannot be softened with optimistic words. Instead, he simply stayed present with Kate as she grappled with this new reality. Over the following days, Kate threw herself into research mode. She spent hours online reading about brain tumors, treatment options, survival rates, and experimental therapies. She called her mother's doctor's office repeatedly, asking for clarification about test results and appointment schedules. She began making lists of specialists in different cities and researching the best medical centers for neurosurgery. William watched Kate's transformation with growing concern. The woman who had always approached life with measured optimism was becoming consumed with worst-case scenarios and medical statistics. She stopped eating regular meals, surviving instead on coffee and the occasional piece of toast. Her apartment, once organized and cheerful, became cluttered with medical printouts and legal pads covered in frantic notes. "Kate, you need to take care of yourself too," William said gently one evening when he found her surrounded by research materials at 2 in the morning. "Your mother is going to need you to be strong, and that means you have to eat and sleep." Kate looked up from her laptop, her eyes red from staring at screens for hours. "I just keep thinking that if I can find the right information, the right doctor, the right treatment, I can fix this. There has to be something I can do." William recognized the desperate need for control that often overwhelmed people facing medical crises. In his work, he had seen family members exhaust themselves trying to manage situations that were largely beyond their influence. He wanted to help Kate find a balance between being proactive and acknowledging the limits of what she could control. 3 weeks after the initial phone call, Kate's mother called with results from additional testing. The tumor was malignant, and surgery would be necessary, followed by radiation and possibly chemotherapy. The oncologist had outlined a treatment plan that would span several months and offered cautious optimism about the prognosis. Kate felt simultaneously relieved to have concrete information and terrified about the road ahead. She immediately began making arrangements to take extended leave from work so she could move back home temporarily to help with her mother's care. Her supervisor was understanding, agreeing to let her work remotely when possible. As Kate packed her belongings for what might be several months away, she realized how much her friendship with William had come to mean to her. He had become her anchor during this storm, offering practical support and emotional stability when everything else felt chaotic. The night before her departure, William helped Kate carry boxes to her car. They worked in comfortable silence, both aware that they were about to be separated during one of the most challenging periods of Kate's life. As they loaded the final box, Kate turned to face William, struggling to find words adequate for her gratitude. "I don't know how to thank you for everything you've done these past few weeks. You've been incredible, and I'm going to miss having you right across the hall." William stepped closer, his expression serious but kind. "Kate, I want you to know that you don't have to face this alone. I know you're going home to take care of your mother, but that doesn't mean you have to carry this burden by yourself." Before Kate could respond, William continued with quiet determination. "I'm going to be here for you, no matter how long this takes or how difficult it gets. You can call me anytime, day or night. If you need someone to talk to, someone to help you research doctors, or just someone to listen when you're scared, I'm here." Kate felt tears welling up in her eyes as she absorbed the sincerity in William's voice. In a time when everything felt uncertain and frightening, his steady presence offered a type of comfort she had never experienced before. "Why would you do that for me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. William looked directly into her eyes, his answer simple but profound. "Because that's what people do for each other when it matters. Because you're important to me, and I'm not going to let you go through this alone." As Kate drove away the next morning, heading toward her hometown and the unknown challenges ahead, she carried with her the knowledge that someone had pledged to stand by her side, regardless of what the future might bring. For the first time since receiving her mother's devastating phone call, Kate felt a glimmer of hope that maybe, somehow, she would have the strength to face whatever came next. Kate arrived at her childhood home on a Wednesday afternoon, pulling into the familiar driveway where she had learned to ride her first bicycle and had taken countless prom photos. The house looked smaller than she remembered, with the same yellow shutters and the rose garden her mother had tended for over 20 years. Everything appeared normal from the outside, but Kate knew that nothing would ever be the same again. Her father met her at the front door, his usually confident demeanor replaced by uncertainty and fear. David Williams had always been the rock of the family, solving problems with practical solutions and unwavering determination. But brain cancer was not something he could fix with hard work and positive thinking, and the helplessness was written across his weathered face. "She's resting upstairs," he said quietly, helping Kate carry her bags inside. "The surgery is scheduled for next Tuesday. The doctors say it went well when they explained the procedure yesterday, but I'll be honest, Kate, I didn't understand half of what they told us." Kate hugged her father tightly, feeling how much weight he had lost in just the few weeks since her mother's diagnosis. She realized that she had been so focused on her mother's condition that she had not considered how devastating this was for her father as well. They had been married for 30 years, building a life together that now faced an uncertain future. Kate's mother, Linda, looked fragile, but determined when Kate entered her bedroom. She was sitting up in bed with a stack of books and a notepad, making lists of things she wanted to accomplish before the surgery. Even facing a life-threatening illness, Linda maintained her characteristic organization and forward-thinking approach. "There's my beautiful daughter," Linda said, opening her arms for an embrace. "I'm so glad you're here, but I also feel terrible that you had to leave your life in the city to come take care of your sick mother." Kate settled into the chair beside her mother's bed, taking her hands gently. "Mom, there's nowhere else I would rather be right now. We're going to get through this together." Over the next few days, Kate established a routine that helped bring structure to the chaos surrounding them. She drove her mother to medical appointments, taking detailed notes and asking questions that her parents might forget in their anxiety. She researched the surgical team and the hospital, reading reviews and checking credentials to ensure they were receiving the best possible care. In the evenings, Kate would call William, usually while sitting on the back porch of her parents' house. These conversations became her lifeline, providing a connection to someone outside the immediate crisis who could offer perspective and emotional support. "How are you holding up?" William would ask. And Kate found herself being more honest with him than she was with her parents about her fears and frustrations. "I keep trying to stay positive for my parents, but I'm terrified, William. What if the surgery doesn't work? What if they can't remove all of the tumor? What if she never recovers completely?" William listened patiently to her concerns, never minimizing her fears, but also helping her focus on what they knew rather than what they imagined might happen. His training as a paramedic had taught him how to remain calm during medical emergencies, and he shared that skill with Kate during their nightly conversations. One of the things I've learned from my work is that it's important to deal with what's happening today rather than trying to solve problems that might never occur, he told her one evening. Your mother has a good medical team, she's in excellent physical condition otherwise, and she has a family that loves her. Those are significant advantages. The night before Linda's surgery, Kate found herself unable to sleep. She wandered through her childhood home, looking at family photos and remembering happier times when medical crises were not part of their vocabulary. She stopped in the kitchen, where she had spent countless hours helping her mother bake cookies and prepare family dinners. At 3 in the morning, her phone buzzed with a text message from William. Thinking about you and your family tonight. Call me if you need to talk. Kate stepped outside onto the back porch and dialed his number, grateful for his intuitive understanding of when she might need support. I couldn't sleep either, William said when he answered. I figured you might be awake, worrying about tomorrow. I keep thinking about all the things I never said to her, Kate admitted. All the times I was too busy with work or too focused on my own problems to really appreciate her. What if I don't get another chance to tell her how much she means to me? William's voice was gentle but firm. Kate, your mother knows you love her. That's not something you need to worry about. But if it would make you feel better, you can tell her tomorrow before the surgery. Sometimes the most important conversations happen in the most unlikely moments. The morning of the surgery arrived with unseasonable warmth for early spring. Kate, her father, and her mother drove to the hospital together, the car filled with nervous energy and forced optimism. Linda had packed a small bag with her favorite books and a framed photo of the family from their last vacation together. In the pre-surgical waiting area, Kate watched her parents say goodbye with the kind of tenderness that comes from 3 decades of shared experiences. Her father kissed her mother's forehead and whispered something that made Linda smile, despite her obvious fear. When it was Kate's turn to say goodbye, she took her mother's hands and looked directly into her eyes. Mom, I need you to know that you taught me everything important about being strong and kind and determined. Whatever happens today, I want you to know that I'm proud to be your daughter, and I love you more than I can express. Linda squeezed Kate's hands tightly. And I need you to promise me something, sweetie. If this doesn't go well, I need you to live your life fully. Don't let fear stop you from pursuing your dreams or opening your heart to love. Promise me you'll be brave, Kate promised, though she could not imagine a future without her mother's guidance and support. As the surgical team wheeled Linda away, Kate felt a profound sense of helplessness that threatened to overwhelm her completely. The surgery was scheduled to take 4 to 6 hours. Kate and her father settled into the waiting room with books they could not concentrate on reading and magazines they flipped through without seeing. Other families occupied nearby chairs, each dealing with their own medical crises and uncertain outcomes. Around noon, Kate stepped outside to call William during his lunch break. She needed to hear his voice and draw strength from his steady presence, even from hundreds of miles away. The waiting is the hardest part, she told him. I feel like I should be doing something, but there's absolutely nothing I can do except sit here and hope. You're doing exactly what you should be doing, William replied. You're being there for your family, and that matters more than you realize. Your mother knows you're in that waiting room, and that gives her strength. As the afternoon stretched on, Kate noticed her father's increasing anxiety. He paced the waiting room, checked his watch constantly, and asked the nursing staff for updates every hour. Kate realized that she needed to be strong not only for herself, but also for him. Dad, Let's go get some coffee and take a walk around the hospital, she suggested. Mom would want us to take care of ourselves while we're waiting. They spent an hour walking the hospital corridors, talking about Linda's strength and determination, sharing memories of her resilience during other challenging times in their family's history. Kate saw her father draw comfort from recounting stories of Linda's past victories over obstacles that had once seemed insurmountable. When they returned to the waiting room, the surgeon was looking for them. Dr. Martinez approached with the kind of measured expression that medical professionals develop when delivering news that is neither entirely good nor entirely bad. "The surgery went well," she began, and Kate felt her father exhale with relief beside her. "We were able to remove the primary tumor, and the preliminary examination suggests we achieved clean margins. However, there are some areas where the tumor was close to critical brain structures, so we'll need to monitor her recovery carefully." Dr. Martinez explained that Linda would be in intensive care for at least 24 hours, followed by several days in a regular hospital room. The full pathology results would be available within a week, which would determine the next steps in her treatment plan. Kate felt a complex mixture of relief and continued worry. The immediate crisis of the surgery was over, but the long-term outcome remained uncertain. She called William from the hospital corridor to share the news, finding comfort in his genuine relief and continued support. "This is a positive step, Kate. Your mother made it through the surgery, and the doctors sound optimistic about what they were able to accomplish." Over the following week, Kate watched her mother navigate the challenging recovery process with characteristic determination. Linda experienced some temporary confusion and fatigue, but her personality and spirit remained intact. She asked about Kate's work, worried about her father's eating habits, and insisted on hearing updates about neighborhood gossip from friends who visited. The pathology results brought cautiously optimistic news. The tumor was aggressive but had been caught before it spread to other areas of the brain. Linda would need several weeks of radiation therapy, but her prognosis was encouraging compared to what they had initially feared. As Linda's hospital stay neared its end, Kate began preparing for the next phase of their journey. She researched radiation therapy, spoke with social workers about support services, and made arrangements to stay with her parents during the treatment period. One evening, as Kate sat beside her mother's hospital bed reading aloud from a novel they both enjoyed, Linda interrupted her with an observation that surprised them both. "You know, Kate, I've been thinking about something. This experience has been terrible and frightening, but it's also shown me how much love surrounds our family. Your father has been incredible. You dropped everything to be here, and your friend William has called the hospital several times just to check on my progress." Kate looked up from her book, curious about where her mother's thoughts were leading. "I think William cares about you more than you realize, sweetie. And I think you care about him too, even though this crisis has prevented you from fully understanding your own feelings." Kate felt her cheeks flush as she considered her mother's words. William had indeed become central to her emotional well-being over the past month, but she had attributed that to the extraordinary circumstances they were navigating together. "I don't know, Mom. He's been amazing, but he's just being a good friend during a difficult time." Linda smiled with the knowing expression that mothers develop after watching their children navigate relationships. Sometimes the best love stories begin with friendship and loyalty during the hard times, rather than romance during the easy ones. That night, Kate lay awake thinking about William's unwavering support and his promise to stand by her regardless of how long or difficult her mother's recovery might be. She realized that somewhere during the weeks of medical appointments and late-night phone calls, her feelings for him had evolved into something deeper than friendship. As she prepared to enter the next phase of her mother's treatment, Kate carried with her a new understanding of what it meant to love and be loved unconditionally. William's consistent presence had taught her that real love was not about grand gestures or perfect timing, but about showing up consistently when life became challenging and uncertain. Linda's radiation therapy began 3 weeks after her surgery, requiring daily trips to the medical center for 6 weeks. Kate established a new routine, driving her mother to appointments each morning and using the waiting time to work remotely on design projects that her supervisor had arranged for her to complete from home. The treatments themselves were surprisingly brief, lasting only about 15 minutes each day, but the cumulative effects gradually took their toll. Linda experienced increasing fatigue and occasional nausea, though she maintained her determination to complete the full course of therapy as prescribed. Kate watched her mother's strength ebb and flow, learning to adjust their daily activities based on Linda's energy levels. On good days, they would take short walks around the neighborhood or work together in the garden. On difficult days, they would watch old movies, or Linda would rest while Kate handled household tasks and meal preparation. Throughout this period, William maintained regular contact, calling every few days and sending encouraging text messages that arrived at precisely the moments when Kate needed them most. His ability to sense when she was struggling, even from a distance, amazed both Kate and her parents. One evening during the 4th week of radiation therapy, Linda had a particularly difficult day. The treatments had caused her to lose her appetite completely, and she spent most of the afternoon sleeping. Kate found herself feeling overwhelmed by the responsibility of managing her mother's care while also supporting her father, who was struggling with his own fear and helplessness. Kate stepped outside onto the back porch and called William, needing to hear his voice and draw strength from his steady presence. "I don't think I'm strong enough for this," she admitted, tears streaming down her face. "I keep trying to stay positive for my parents, but I'm scared that I'm not doing enough, that I'm missing something important that could help her." William listened patiently as Kate voiced her fears and frustrations. His response was gentle but direct. "Kate, you're doing everything possible. You've been there for your mother every single day. You've managed her medical appointments, you've supported your father, and you've maintained your own work responsibilities. That's not just strength, that's extraordinary dedication. But what if it's not enough? What if she doesn't recover completely? What if the cancer comes back?" "Those are possibilities we have to acknowledge," William said honestly. "But they're not certainties, and worrying about them won't change the outcome. What you can control is being present with your mother today, and you're doing that beautifully." After their conversation, Kate felt a renewed sense of perspective. She realized that she had been measuring her success by outcomes that were largely beyond her control, rather than recognizing the value of her consistent presence and care. The following week brought a turning point in Linda's recovery. Her energy levels began to stabilize, and her appetite gradually returned. The radiation oncologist reported that Linda was responding well to treatment, with scans showing no new tumor growth and encouraging signs of healing in the surgical area. Kate began to allow herself to hope that her mother might fully recover from this ordeal. The family started making tentative plans for the future, including a celebration trip they wanted to take together once Linda completed her treatment protocol. As Linda's 6-week radiation schedule neared its end, Kate realized that she would soon face a difficult decision about returning to her life in the city. Her mother's immediate medical crisis was resolving, but Kate worried about leaving her parents to manage the follow-up care and monitoring appointments alone. During one of their evening phone calls, Kate discussed her dilemma with William. "I know my parents can handle things from here, but I feel guilty about resuming my normal life when they're still dealing with so much uncertainty." William understood Kate's conflicted feelings, but he also recognized that she needed to begin rebuilding her own life after months of crisis management. "Kate, your parents raised you to be independent and pursue your dreams. They won't want you to sacrifice your future because of fear about what might happen to them. I know you're right, but I also know that I've changed during these months. I'm not the same person who left the city focused only on my career goals and personal ambitions. This experience has taught me what really matters, and I want my life to reflect those priorities. William's next words surprised Kate with their directness and emotional honesty. Kate, I need to tell you something that I've been thinking about throughout this entire ordeal. Watching you handle this crisis with such grace and determination has made me realize that I'm in love with you. Kate felt her breath catch as she absorbed William's confession. She had sensed that their relationship had deepened during the months of her mother's illness. But hearing him express his feelings so clearly made her own emotions crystallize with sudden clarity. I love you too, William, she said quietly. I think I have for a while now, but I was so focused on my mother's situation that I didn't allow myself to fully acknowledge my feelings. They talked for over an hour that night, sharing their thoughts about how their relationship might develop and what it would mean for Kate's eventual return to the city. William made it clear that he supported whatever decisions Kate needed to make about her mother's ongoing care, and that his feelings for her were not conditional on her immediate return. 2 weeks later, Linda completed her radiation therapy with a celebration dinner that included extended family and close friends. The oncologist scheduled follow-up appointments for 3 months later, with imaging studies to monitor for any signs of cancer recurrence. Kate decided to remain with her parents for another month, helping them establish routines for the monitoring phase of Linda's recovery while gradually transitioning back to her remote work responsibilities. She wanted to ensure that her parents felt confident managing the next phase independently before she returned to her own life. During her final week at home, Kate had a conversation with her mother that clarified her thoughts about the future. They were sitting in the garden, enjoying the early summer weather and the roses that had bloomed despite the family's medical crisis. Mom, I've been thinking about what you said in the hospital about living my life fully and not letting fear stop me from pursuing love. I think William and I have something special, and I want to explore where it might lead. Linda smiled with genuine pleasure. I'm so glad to hear that, Kate. William is a remarkable man, and anyone can see how much he cares about you. But more importantly, I can see how much you've grown during these difficult months. You've discovered strengths you didn't know you had. I've also realized that my priorities have shifted, Kate continued. I still love my work and my creative goals, but I want relationships and family to be at the center of my life going forward. This experience has taught me that love and loyalty are what matter most when everything else becomes uncertain. Linda reached over and squeezed her daughter's hand. That's the most important lesson anyone can learn, sweetie. And you learned it at a young age, which means you have many years ahead to build a life based on those values. Kate returned to the city on a Saturday morning in late June, driving the same route she had traveled in the opposite direction 3 months earlier. Everything looked the same buildings, the same park, the same apartment building, but Kate herself was profoundly different. William was waiting for her in the hallway outside their apartments, and when Kate saw him, she felt a rush of emotion that encompassed relief, joy, love, and gratitude all at once. He embraced her tightly, and neither of them spoke for several minutes. "Welcome home," William finally said, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for waiting for me," Kate replied. "Thank you for keeping your promise to not let me face this alone." That evening, they sat together on Kate's couch, talking about her mother's recovery and their hopes for the future. Kate showed William photos from the celebration dinner and shared updates about her parents' improved spirits and renewed optimism. "I want you to know that watching you handle this crisis has taught me things about love and commitment that I never understood before," Kate told William. "You showed me what it means to truly be there for someone, not just during the easy times, but especially during the hardest ones." William listened thoughtfully before responding. "Kate, I made that promise to you because I recognized something in you that I had never encountered before. Your strength, your loyalty to your family, your ability to find hope even in desperate circumstances. Those qualities made me realize that you were someone worth waiting for, regardless of how long it took or how difficult it became. 6 months later, Kate received a phone call that brought news she had hardly dared to hope for. Linda's follow-up scans showed no evidence of cancer recurrence, and her oncologist felt confident enough to extend the interval between monitoring appointments to 6 months. Kate hung up the phone and immediately called William at work to share the good news. As she heard the relief and joy in his voice, she realized that he had been carrying the weight of her family's crisis just as she had, supporting her while also worrying about outcomes that were beyond anyone's control. That evening, William took Kate to dinner at the restaurant where they had shared their first real conversation about her mother's diagnosis. As they sat across from each other, Kate reflected on how much their relationship had deepened through the experience of facing crisis together. "I have something I want to ask you," William said as their meal concluded. He reached across the table and took her hands, looking directly into her eyes with the same steady presence that had anchored her throughout her mother's illness. "Kate Williams, will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life proving that my promise to never let you face anything alone was not just about this crisis, but about everything that comes after it, too?" Kate felt tears streaming down her face as she looked at this man who had taught her what unconditional love truly meant. William had seen her at her most frightened and vulnerable, had supported her through months of uncertainty and fear, and had never wavered in his commitment to stand by her side. "Yes," she said, her voice filled with joy and certainty. "Yes, I want to face everything with you, the difficult times and the beautiful times, all of it together." As they embraced in the restaurant, Kate thought about her mother's words in the hospital about love stories that begin with loyalty during hard times rather than romance during easy ones. She realized that she and William had built something extraordinary during the most challenging period of her life, a foundation strong enough to support whatever the future might bring. Later that evening, Kate called her parents to share the news of William's proposal. Linda's reaction was immediate and enthusiastic, expressing her joy that Kate had found someone who understood the importance of showing up consistently, especially when life became difficult. "I'm so proud of the woman you've become during this experience," Linda told her daughter, "and I'm grateful that William was there to support you when I couldn't be. You've both learned something about love that many people never discover." Kate looked across her apartment at William, who was reading quietly in the armchair by the window, and felt a deep sense of gratitude for the journey that had brought them to this moment. Her mother's illness had been devastating and frightening, but it had also revealed the depths of love and loyalty that were possible between people who truly committed to each other. The crisis that had once threatened to destroy everything Kate held dear had ultimately taught her the most important lesson of her life, that real love was not about perfect circumstances or easy times, but about the willingness to face uncertainty together, to show up consistently for each other, and to find strength in shared commitment even when the outcome remained unknown. As Kate prepared for bed that night, wearing the engagement ring that William had chosen with such careful thought, she reflected on how profoundly her life had changed in just 1 year. She had discovered reserves of strength she never knew she possessed, had learned to navigate medical crises and family responsibilities, and had found a love deep enough to sustain her through whatever challenges the future might bring. Most importantly, she had learned that when someone promises to never let you face life's difficulties alone, and when they follow through on that promise with consistent action and unwavering support, they give you a gift more valuable than anything else in the world: the knowledge that you are truly loved, unconditionally and completely, regardless of what circumstances might arise. Kate fell asleep that night with profound gratitude for her mother's recovery, for William's steadfast love, and for the understanding that the most meaningful relationships are forged not during life's easiest moments, but during its most challenging ones, when people have the opportunity to prove the depth of their commitment to each other through actions rather than words.